You'll marry her tomorrow morning cross, or I'll see you hanged by sundown. Marshal Dawson's voice cut through the jailhouse like a blade. Jonah stared at the older man, his hands gripping the iron bars until his knuckles went white. The widow Grant needs a husband. The sheriff's last wish was that someone take care of what he left behind. You owe him that much. You owe him your life. Eliza stood in the doorway, her black dress stark against the fading light, her face unreadable. I didn't ask for this either, she said quietly. But we both know you don't have a choice. The door closed. The decision was already made. Before we begin, I invite you to subscribe to this channel and stay with me until the very end of this story. Please comment below with the city you're watching from, so I can see how far my story has traveled. Part 1. Jonah didn't sleep that night. He sat on the edge of the cot in his cell, his head in his hands, listening to the wind scrape across the roof of the jailhouse. Marshal Dawson had left hours ago. The lantern in the corner burned low, throwing shadows that moved like ghosts. He'd killed a man 3 weeks ago. Self-defense, but the law didn't always see it that way. Sheriff Grant had been the one to step in to vouch for him to keep the rope from tightening around his neck. And then Grant had died shot in the back during a raid on the edge of town. Jonah had been there. He'd seen it happen. He'd carried the body back. Now the debt had come due. The door creaked open just after dawn. Eliza Grant stepped inside holding a small bundle wrapped in brown paper. She didn't look at him as she set it on the table near the cell. "Clean shirt," she said. "You'll need it." Jonah stood slowly, his eyes on her. She was younger than he'd expected, maybe 30, with dark hair pulled back tight and eyes that didn't give anything away. Her dress was plain black, her hands steady. "Why are you doing this?" he asked. She finally looked at him. "Because I don't have a choice either." "You could refuse." "Could I?" Her voice was flat. "The ranch needs a man to run it. The bank's breathing down my neck. The town council's already talking about taking everything my husband built. If I don't have a husband by the end of the week, I lose it all." "So you'd marry a stranger?" "I'd marry someone who owes me." She turned toward the door. "Marshall's waiting. We do this now, or we don't do it at all." The ceremony took 5 minutes. Judge Harper read from a book. Jonah didn't recognize his voice, thin and tired. Eliza stood beside him, her hands folded in front of her, her face still as stone. Jonah repeated the words he was told to repeat. When the judge said, "You may kiss the bride," Eliza turned away. "That won't be necessary," she said. The judge closed the book. "Then you're married. God help you both." They walked out of the courthouse into the cold morning. The town was just waking up, smoke rising from chimneys, horses shifting in their stalls. Eliza started walking toward the edge of town without a word. Jonah followed. The Grant Ranch sat 2 miles outside Red Hollow, a small spread with a house that needed paint and fences that sagged in places. Eliza stopped at the gate and looked back at him. "You'll sleep in the barn," she said. "I'll cook meals, you'll work the land, we stay out of each other's way. That's it. That's it." She walked toward the house. Jonah watched her go, then turned toward the barn. The door hung crooked on its hinges. Inside it smelled like old hay and dust. He found a corner with a bedroll and sat down, staring at the roof beams. This was his life now. The first week passed in silence. Eliza cooked breakfast before dawn, eggs, bread, coffee that tasted like dirt. She left his plate on the porch. He ate alone. She worked in the house. He fixed the fences, mucked the stalls, patched the roof where the rain had gotten in. At night, he heard her moving around inside, her footsteps soft on the floorboards. He stayed in the barn. On the 8th day, she came to find him while he was splitting wood behind the house. "Someone's coming," she said. He looked up. She was standing with her arms crossed, her face tight. "Who?" "Don't know. Saw the dust from the road." She glanced toward the horizon. Could be nothing. Could be trouble. Jonah set down the axe and followed her to the front of the house. A rider was coming fast, kicking up dirt. Eliza's hand went to the pocket of her apron. Jonah saw the outline of a small pistol. The rider pulled up hard, his horse snorting. It was a young man, maybe 20, with a deputy's badge pinned crooked to his vest. "Mrs. Grant," he said, breathing hard. "Marshall sent me. There's been another robbery. The bank in Clayton. They hit it last night." Eliza's face didn't change. "What's that got to do with me?" "Same crew that killed the sheriff, ma'am. Witnesses said they saw a man matching your husband's description riding with them." The silence stretched out like wire pulled too tight. "That's a lie," Eliza said quietly. The deputy shifted in his saddle. "I'm just telling you what they said, ma'am. Marshall wanted you to know. Said to keep your eyes open." He glanced at Jonah. "You the new husband?" "I am." "Well, you watch her back. These men don't leave witnesses." He turned his horse and rode off. Eliza stood perfectly still, staring at the dust cloud he left behind. Jonah waited. "My husband wasn't a criminal," she said finally. "I know. You don't know anything about him. I know he saved my life. I know he died doing his job. That's enough." She looked at him for the first time since the wedding, really looked at him, her eyes searching his face for something she didn't name. "You believe that?" she asked. "I do." She turned and walked back into the house. The door closed behind her. Jonah picked up the axe again and kept working. That night he heard her crying. It was soft, muffled, like she was trying to keep it quiet. He sat up in the barn, listening to the sound carry through the walls. He thought about going to her, saying something, doing something. But what could he say? They were strangers. The marriage was a lie. She didn't want him there. He lay back down and stared at the ceiling until the crying stopped. Good. 2 days later, she found him in the stable. "I need you to ride into town with me," she said. "What for?" "Bank. I need to talk to them about the mortgage." He nodded. They saddled 2 horses and rode in together. The town was busier than usual, people gathering in small groups, talking in low voices. Jonah saw the way they looked at Eliza, the way they whispered when she passed. She kept her head up, her jaw set. Inside the bank, a thin man with spectacles and a sour expression sat behind a desk. "Mrs. Grant," he said, not standing. "I was wondering when you'd come by." "I'm here to discuss the payment schedule," Eliza said. "There's nothing to discuss. Payment's due in 2 weeks. If you can't make it, the property reverts to the bank." "I'll make it." "Will you?" The man leaned back in his chair. "Without the sheriff's salary, with just a drifter working the land." Jonah stepped forward. The man's eyes flicked to him, then back to Eliza. "We'll make it," she said again. "We'll see." The man smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. 2 weeks, Mrs. Grant, not a day more." They walked out into the street. Eliza's hands were shaking. She balled them into fists. "I hate this town," she said quietly. "Then why stay?" "Because it's mine. Because my husband died for it. Because I won't let them take it from me." Jonah looked at her, at the fire in her eyes, the stubborn set of her shoulders. She wasn't broken. She was furious. "What do you need me to do?" he asked. She met his eyes. "Help me keep it." They worked from dawn to dusk after that. Jonah rounded up the cattle that had wandered into the hills, repaired the irrigation system, hauled water from the creek. Eliza kept the books, sold eggs and milk in town, stretched every dollar until it screamed. At night they ate together on the porch, still not saying much, but the silence felt different now. Less empty. One evening she broke it. "Why were you in jail?" she asked. Jonah looked at her. She was staring at the horizon, not at him. "Killed a man," he said. "He drew on me first. Your husband believed me." "Did you know him? The man you killed?" "No." "Then why did he want you dead?" Jonah was quiet for a long moment. "I don't know. He just Looked at me like he knew me, like he'd been waiting for me. Eliza's expression shifted, something Jonah couldn't read. "What was his name?" she asked. "Carter. Ben Carter." She stood up fast, her chair scraping against the wood. "What?" Jonah asked. "That name." Her voice was tight. "My husband mentioned it, in his notes. Said Carter was connected to the gang that robbed the Clayton Bank." Jonah felt something cold slide down his spine. "You think they're connected, the man I killed, and the men who killed your husband?" "I think you should stay armed," she said. "And I think we're not safe here." Beg. She was right. 3 nights later, Jonah woke to the sound of horses. He rolled out of bed, grabbing his rifle, and moved to the barn door. 4 riders were circling the house, their faces hidden in shadow. One of them dismounted and kicked at the front door. Jonah fired a shot into the dirt near the man's feet. The rider jumped back, cursing. "Get off this land!" Jonah shouted. One of the riders laughed. "We're not here for you, Cross. We're here for the widow." Eliza's voice cut through the dark. "Then come get me." She was standing in the doorway of the house, holding her husband's rifle. The riders exchanged looks. The one who'd been at the door stepped forward. "Your husband stole from us, lady. We want it back." "My husband was a lawman. He didn't steal anything. He took something that didn't belong to him. You give it back, we leave. You don't, we burn this place to the ground." Jonah moved closer to the house, his rifle still trained on the riders. "She doesn't know what you're talking about," he said. "Then maybe she should start asking questions." The rider mounted his horse again. "You got 3 days to find it. After that we come back, and we won't be so polite." They rode off, leaving nothing but dust and the smell of sweat and gunpowder. Eliza lowered her rifle. Her hands were shaking now bad. "What did they mean?" Jonah asked. "What did your husband take?" "I don't know." Her voice cracked. "I swear to God I don't know." Jonah stepped closer. "Then we need to find out, before they come back." She looked at him, her eyes wide and afraid. What if he did take something? What if they're right? "Then we'll deal with it. Together." The word hung between them, together. It felt too big, too real. But Eliza nodded. "Together," she whispered. They tore the house apart the next morning. Every drawer, every cabinet, every loose board. Jonah checked the barn, the cellar, the well. Nothing. Eliza sat at the kitchen table, her husband's notebook spread out in front of her, reading every word he'd ever written. "Here," she said suddenly. Jonah came over. She was pointing at a page near the back of one of the journals. "Carter connected to Dawson. Watch the marshal." Jonah's blood went cold. "Dawson, the marshal who married us. The same one who vouched for my husband. The same one who told you to marry me. Why would he—" "I don't know." Eliza's voice was shaking. "But if my husband didn't trust him, then neither do I." Jonah sat down across from her. "What else does it say?" She flipped through the pages. Names, dates, transactions. It looks like he was tracking money moving through the town. Large amounts, coming from somewhere going somewhere else. Laundering, maybe. She looked up at him. "What if my husband figured out the marshal was dirty? What if that's why he was killed? Then we're in more danger than we thought." Jonah reached across the table and put his hand over hers. She didn't pull away. "We need to be smart about this. We can't go to Dawson. We can't trust anyone in town." "Then what do? We find proof, real proof, and we take it to someone who can help." Eliza's fingers tightened around his. "Who? I don't know yet, but we'll figure it out." She looked at their hands, then at his face. Something shifted in her expression. Something soft, something scared. "Why are you helping me?" she asked quietly. "Because you're my wife." "That's just a piece of paper. Maybe." He didn't let go. "But it's the only thing I've got that feels like it matters." Her breath caught. For a moment, Jonah thought she might cry, but she didn't. She just nodded, her eyes holding his. "Okay," she said. "Okay."
Did they?
The next day, a man came to the house. He was older, gray-haired, wearing a clean suit that didn't fit the dust of Red Hollow. He knocked on the door, and Eliza answered with her rifle hidden behind her skirt. "Mrs. Grant," he said, tipping his hat. "My name's Thomas Whitaker. I'm an attorney from Clayton. I represent the estate of Sheriff James Grant." Eliza's face went pale. "What do you want?" "May I come in?" She hesitated, then stepped aside. Jonah came in from the barn, his hand on his pistol. Whitaker saw him and nodded. "You must be the new husband. Jonah Cross, isn't it?" "That's right." Whitaker set a leather case on the table and opened it. Inside were papers, documents, sealed envelopes. "Your husband left instructions," he said to Eliza. "In the event of his death, I was to deliver these to you personally. No one else was to see them." Eliza took the envelope he handed her. Her hands shook as she broke the seal. Inside was a letter. She read it in silence, her face going from pale to white to something harder. When she finished, she looked at Jonah. "He knew," she whispered. "He knew he was going to die." Jonah felt his chest tighten. "What does it say?" She handed him the letter. The handwriting was neat, careful. "Eliza, if you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I tried to protect you from what's coming, but I ran out of time. Marshall Dawson is not who he seems. He's been working with the gang that's been robbing banks across the territory. I have proof documents, ledgers, names. I hid them where only you can find them. Trust no one but the man I send to you. His name is Jonah Cross. He owes me a debt, and I'm calling it in. He'll keep you safe. He'll help you finish what I started. I love you. I always have. But I need you to be strong now. Stronger than you've ever been. Find the truth. Burn it all down." James Jonah set the letter down. Eliza was staring at him, her eyes full of something he couldn't name. "He sent you to me," she said softly. "Before he even died. He knew." "He couldn't have known." "He did." Her voice broke. "He planned this. All of it. The marriage. You. Everything." Whitaker cleared his throat. "There's more." He pulled another envelope from the case. "This one's for you, Mr. Cross." Jonah took it, his hands numb. Inside was a single sheet of paper. "Cross, I know what you're running from. I know who you really are. I kept your secret because I needed you alive. Now I need you to keep her alive. Do this and your debt is paid. Fail and she dies knowing the truth about you. Don't let her die. Grant." Jonah's vision blurred. He folded the letter carefully and put it in his pocket. Eliza was watching him. "What does it say?" "It says your husband was a smart man." His voice came out rough. "And that we have work to do." Whitaker left an hour later, his horse kicking up dust as he disappeared down the road. Eliza stood at the window watching until he was gone. Jonah sat at the table, the sheriff's letter burning a hole in his pocket. "He knew about you," Eliza said without turning around. "Whatever you're hiding, James knew." "He did." "And he sent you to me anyway." "He did." She turned to face him. "So tell me, what are you running from?" Jonah looked at her, at the way she held herself together, even when everything was falling apart, at the strength in her eyes that wouldn't let him lie. "I killed someone before Carter," he said quietly. "Back east. My brother." The words landed like stones in still water. Eliza didn't move. "Why?" "He was going to kill our father, drunk, angry, out of his mind. I tried to stop him. The gun went off." Jonah's voice was flat, empty. "I ran, changed my name, kept moving west until I thought I was far enough away that it didn't matter anymore." "Does it matter?" "Every day." She crossed the room and sat down across from him. "Your brother, was it an accident?" "The law didn't see it that way." "I'm not asking what the law saw. I'm asking what happened." Jonah met her eyes. "It was an accident, but I still pulled the trigger." Eliza was quiet for a long moment. Then she reached across the table and took his hand. "My husband trusted you," she said. "That's enough for me." Something in Jonah's chest cracked open. He turned his hand over his fingers, closing around hers. "We need to find what he hid," he said. "I know." She didn't let go. "The letter said only I could find it. That means it's somewhere I know. Somewhere James knew I'd look. Where would that be?" She stood up, pulling him with her. "Come with me." They went upstairs to the bedroom Jonah had never entered. It was small, simple, a bed, with a worn quilt, a dresser, a trunk at the foot of the bed. Eliza knelt beside the trunk and opened it. Inside were clothes, letters, a Bible, a small wooden box. She lifted the box carefully and set it on the bed. "This was his mother's," she said. "He never opened it. Said it felt wrong, like he'd be disturbing something sacred." She opened the latch. Inside was a folded piece of cloth yellowed with age. Beneath it was a stack of papers tied with string. Eliza's hands shook as she untied them. The top page was a ledger, names, dates, amounts. Hundreds of thousands of dollars moving through accounts that didn't exist. "This is it," she whispered. "This is what he found." Jonah looked over her shoulder. The names jumped out at him: Dawson, Carter. Others he didn't recognize. All connected to the same central account, all tied to the banks that had been robbed. "They weren't stealing," Eliza said slowly. "They were covering their tracks. Moving the money they'd already stolen, making it look like robberies so no one would ask questions. Your husband figured it out. And they killed him for it." Jonah took the ledger from her hands. "We need to get this to someone who can use it. Someone outside Red Hollow. Someone Dawson can't reach." "Who?" "Federal Marshal. There's one in Santa Fe. 3 days' ride." Eliza looked at him. "If we leave, they'll burn the ranch. If we stay, they'll kill us. Then we take the fight to them first." Jonah stared at her. "You want to go after Dawson?" "I want justice for my husband." Her voice was steel. "I want them to pay for what they did. And I want them to know I'm the one who brought them down. That's suicide. That's the only way this ends." She stood up, her jaw set. "You can come with me or you can run. But I'm not leaving without finishing this." Jonah knew that look. He'd seen it in the mirror enough times. "Then we do it smart," he said. "We get proof that can't be denied. We make sure everyone knows what Dawson did. And we don't die trying." Agreed. They spent the next hour making copies of the ledger, Eliza's careful handwriting, filling page after page. When they were done, they had 3 sets. One to hide, one to carry, one to use as bait. "We need to draw them out," Jonah said. "Make them think we're vulnerable." "How?" "We go into town, we make noise, we let them know we have something they want." Eliza looked at him like he'd lost his mind. "That's your plan. Walk into the lion's den and wave a red flag." "You have a better idea." She didn't. They rode into Red Hollow the next morning, the ledger copy tucked inside Jonah's jacket. The town was quiet, too quiet. People watched them from windows, from doorways, their faces closed and suspicious. They tied their horses outside the general store. Eliza went in first. Jonah followed, his hand resting on his pistol. The store owner looked up, his expression carefully neutral. "Mrs. Grant, Mr. Cross." "Morning, Henry," Eliza said. "We need supplies. Flour, coffee, ammunition." Henry's eyes flicked to Jonah. "Ammunition?" "Lots of it," Jonah said. Henry didn't move. "Something you want to tell me?" "Just that we're expecting company," Eliza said. "The unfriendly kind." Henry set down the rag he'd been holding. "You're poking a hornet's nest, Eliza. You know that, right?" "I know exactly what I'm doing." "Do you?" He leaned forward, his voice dropping. "Because Dawson's been asking questions about you, about your husband's belongings, about what you might have found." Eliza's face didn't change. "Let him ask. He's not just asking anymore. He's demanding. And when Dawson demands something in this town, people listen. Then maybe it's time people stopped listening." Henry's expression shifted something like respect, something like fear. You've got guts, I'll give you that, but guts won't stop bullets. No, Jonah said, but these will. He pulled back his jacket just enough to show the papers tucked inside. Henry's eyes widened. Is that everything? Eliza said quietly. Every name, every transaction, every lie. Henry stepped back. You can't have that here. If Dawson finds out, he already knows. The voice came from the doorway. They turned. Marshal Dawson stood there, his hand on his gun, his face carved from stone. Mrs. Grant, he said softly. Mr. Cross, I think we need to have a conversation. Jonah's hand moved to his pistol. Dawson shook his head. Don't be stupid, boy. I've got 3 men outside. You draw, you die. Both of you. Eliza's voice was calm. What do you want, Marshal? What your husband stole from me. He didn't steal anything. He uncovered the truth. Dawson smiled. It was cold empty. The truth is, whatever I say it is in this town. Your husband forgot that. Don't make the same mistake. The truth is in black and white, Jonah said. Names, dates, numbers. All pointing back to you. You think anyone will believe it? I'm the law here. I've been the law for 15 years. Your word against mine, you'll lose. Not if we take it to Santa Fe. Dawson's expression flickered. Just for a second. But Jonah saw it. You won't make it to Santa Fe, Dawson said. We don't have to. Eliza pulled a folded paper from her pocket. We already sent a copy. Stagecoach left this morning. Should reach the federal marshal by Friday. It was a lie. A perfect, beautiful lie. And Dawson believed it. His face went white, then red, then something darker. You're lying. Am I? Eliza's voice was steady. You want to take that chance. Dawson's hand tightened on his gun. For a moment, Jonah thought he'd draw, but then he stepped back. You just signed your own death warrant, he said quietly. Both of you. We'll see. Dawson turned and walked out. Through the window, they saw him mount his horse and ride hard toward the edge of town. Henry was staring at them. Tell me you actually sent that ledger. Not yet, Jonah said. Then what? We bought ourselves time, Eliza said. Now we use it. They grabbed the supplies and left. Outside, people were starting to gather, whispers spreading like wildfire. Jonah heard fragments as they passed. Turned on Dawson. Got proof. Federal marshal. By the time they reached their horses, half the town knew. By nightfall, everyone would. That was risky, Jonah said as they rode out. That was necessary. Eliza looked back at the town. We can't fight them alone. We need people to know what's happening. We need witnesses. Witnesses get killed. So do people who stay silent. They rode hard back to the ranch. The sun was setting when they arrived, painting everything in shades of red and gold. Jonah helped Eliza unload the supplies, his eyes scanning the horizon. They'll come tonight, he said. I know. We should be ready. I am. They fortified the house, moved furniture to block windows, loaded every gun they had filled, buckets with water in case of fire. When darkness fell, they sat in the kitchen, listening to the night sounds. Tell me about your wife, Jonah said suddenly. Eliza looked at him surprised. My husband? No. You. Before all this. Who were you? She was quiet for a long time. Then she said, I was a teacher in Philadelphia. I came west because I wanted adventure. I got it. You met the sheriff here. I met James at a dance. He was awkward, shy, couldn't stop stepping on my feet. But he made me laugh. Her voice softened. He made me feel safe, like nothing bad could ever happen as long as he was there. He was right about that. Was he? He's dead, Jonah. He got killed trying to do the right thing. Where's the safety in that? He made sure you had someone to protect you after he was gone. He made sure I had you. She looked at him. Why did he choose you out of everyone? Why you? Because I owed him. And because he knew I wouldn't run. How did he know that? Jonah met her eyes. Because he knew what I was running from. He knew I was tired of running. The moment stretched between them, heavy charged full of things neither of them could say. Then the shooting started. Bullets slammed into the walls, shattering windows, splintering wood. Jonah dove for the floor, pulling Eliza down with him. Glass rained down around them. "Stay low!" he shouted. He crawled to the window, raised his rifle, fired blind into the darkness. More shots answered from the barn, from the fence line, from every direction at once. "How many?" Eliza shouted. "Too many." She fired from the other window, her shots precise and controlled. Jonah heard a man scream. "I got one," she said. "Good, keep shooting." The attack lasted 10 minutes. Then silence. Jonah waited, his rifle trained on the darkness, his heart hammering. Nothing moved. "They're gone," Eliza said. "No." Jonah's voice was tight. "They're regrouping." He was right. 5 minutes later they came again, harder, faster, more coordinated. Jonah and Eliza fired until their rifles were empty, reloading in the dark, their hands shaking. A torch sailed through the broken window, landing on the floor. Flames leapt up. Fire! Eliza grabbed a bucket, threw water on the flames. They sputtered, but didn't die. Jonah stomped on them, his boots smoking. "We can't stay here. Where do we go?" "The cellar now." They ran for the trap door in the kitchen floor. Jonah yanked it open, practically threw Eliza down the ladder, followed her into the darkness. Above them the shooting continued. The house groaned. In the cellar they crouched in the dirt, breathing hard. "They're going to burn us out," Eliza whispered. "I know. We can't just wait here to die." "We're not going to." Jonah grabbed her hand. "There's a tunnel. Your husband showed me. Leads out to the creek. We can get out, circle back, hit them from behind." "When did he show you this?" "The day before he died. Like he knew." Eliza's fingers tightened around his. He knew everything. They moved through the tunnel, narrow, dark, smelling like earth and old stone. It seemed to go on forever. Finally they emerged near the creek, hidden by brush and shadows. The ranch was burning. Flames climbed into the sky, eating everything. Eliza made a sound like she'd been shot. "Don't look," Jonah said. "That's my home. That's wood and nails. You're what matters." She turned to him, her face streaked with tears and ash. "What do we do now?" "We end this." He led her through the darkness, moving fast and quiet. They circled around to where the riders were gathered, watching the fire, laughing. Jonah counted 5 men. No sign of Dawson. "We take them here," he whispered. "We're outnumbered. We have surprise." Eliza checked her rifle. "On 3?" "On 3." They stepped out of the shadows together. Jonah fired first, dropped the man on the left. Eliza took the one on the right. The others scattered, shouting, returning fire wildly. Jonah moved like water, smooth and fast, taking cover behind a wagon. Eliza was beside him, reloading, her hands steady despite everything. "2 left," she said. "I see them." A bullet whined past Jonah's ear. He fired back, heard a grunt. 1 down. The last man ran for his horse. Eliza stood, aimed, fired. The man fell. Silence. Jonah and Eliza stayed frozen, waiting for another attack. None came. Slowly they stood. The ranch was still burning. The men were dead or dying. "We need to go," Jonah said. "Before Dawson comes back." "Where?" "Santa Fe. For real this time. We get this ledger to the federal marshal. We end Dawson for good." Eliza looked at the burning house one last time. Then she looked at Jonah. "Let's go." They took 2 horses from the dead men, rode hard into the night. Behind them, everything they'd had burned to ash. Ahead, the darkness waited, but they rode together. And somehow, that was enough. They rode through this night until the horses were stumbling. Dawn broke cold and gray, painting the desert in shades of ash. Jonah pulled his horse to a stop near a dry riverbed. "We need to rest," he said. "Horses won't make it otherwise." Eliza slid from her saddle, her legs barely holding her. She hadn't said a word in hours. Jonah watched her walk to the edge of the riverbed and sit down hard, her head in her hands. He tended to the horses first, then joined her. She was shaking, whether from cold or shock he couldn't tell. "Here." He draped his coat over her shoulders. "I watched it burn," she said quietly. "Everything James built, everything we had, just gone. We're alive. That's what matters." "Is it?" She looked at him, her eyes red. "We're running for our lives. We have nothing. No home, no money, no proof that any of this will matter." Jonah pulled the ledger from inside his shirt. "We have this. A bunch of papers. Against the word of a marshal who's been trusted for 15 years. You really think anyone will believe us? Your husband believed it was worth dying for." The words hit her like a slap. She stood up, turned away from him. "Don't," she said. "Don't use him to make me feel guilty for being scared." "I'm not trying to—" "Yes, you are. You're trying to make me brave because you need me to be. But I'm not brave, Jonah. I'm terrified. I'm so scared I can't breathe." He stood and moved closer to her. "Then be scared, but don't quit." "Why not? What's the point? Even if we reach Santa Fe, even if the marshal believes us, Dawson will just disappear. Men like him always do, and we'll be left with nothing. You'll be left with your life." "What kind of life? Running, hiding, always looking over my shoulder." Jonah grabbed her shoulders, turned her to face him. "A life where you don't let the people who killed your husband win. A life where you fight back. That's the point." She stared at him, her breath coming fast. Then she shoved him hard. "You don't get to tell me what my life should be. You don't get to decide what's worth fighting for." "You're right, I don't. But I'm still going to fight. With you or without you." "Then go. I didn't ask you to marry me. I didn't ask for any of this." "Neither did I, but here we are." They stood there breathing hard, fury crackling between them. Then Eliza's face crumpled. "I'm sorry," she whispered. "I'm so sorry. I don't know how to do this." Jonah pulled her against him. She fought for a second, then collapsed into his chest, her whole body shaking. "I've got you," he said quietly. "I've got you." She cried until there was nothing left. When she finally pulled back, her face was blotchy and swollen, but her eyes were clear. "Okay," she said. "Okay, we keep going." They slept for 3 hours, taking turns keeping watch. When they woke, the sun was high and merciless. Jonah checked their supplies, enough food for 2 days, maybe 3 if they stretched it. Water for less. "There's a town called Redemption about 20 miles east," he said. "We can resupply there." "Can we risk it?" "We don't have a choice." They rode slow, conserving the horses' strength. The land was brutal, all rock and scrub and heat that shimmered in waves. By midday they were both sunburned and parched. Eliza's horse stumbled. She caught herself, but barely. "We need to stop," Jonah said. "We're too exposed." "The horses are done. Another hour and they'll drop." They found a cluster of rocks that offered some shade and dismounted. Jonah gave the horses what little water they had left. Eliza sat with her back against a boulder, her eyes closed. "Tell me something," she said. "Something true." Jonah looked at her. "Like what?" "Anything. I need to hear something that isn't about death or running or being scared." He thought for a moment. "When I was 10, my brother and I found a dog. Stray, half-starved, mean as hell. My father said to leave it, but we didn't. We fed it, took care of it. After a month it followed us everywhere. Slept at the foot of our beds. Protected us like we were its pack. What happened to it? It got old. Died in its sleep one winter. We buried it behind the house. My brother cried for days." Eliza opened her eyes. "The same brother you killed?" "Yeah. Do you think about him?" "Every day. Do you regret it?" Jonah was quiet. Then he said, "I regret that it had to happen. I don't regret protecting my father." "That's not the same thing." "I know." She reached out and took his hand. "Thank you." "For what?" "For being honest." They sat there, fingers intertwined, until the worst of the heat passed. Then they mounted up and kept moving. Redemption appeared on the horizon just before sunset, a handful of buildings clustered around a single dirt road. Jonah's instincts screamed danger. "Something's wrong," he said. "What?" "It's too quiet. No smoke from chimneys. No one in the streets." They rode in slow hands on their guns. The town was deserted, doors hanging open, windows, dark dust coating everything. "Where is everyone?" Eliza whispered. "Gone, or dead." They dismounted near the general store. Inside, the shelves were bare. Someone had cleaned the place out. "This doesn't make sense," Eliza said. "Towns don't just disappear." Jonah walked to the back of the store. There was a door half open. Beyond it, stairs leading down. "Stay here," he said. "Not a chance." They descended together, guns drawn. The cellar was dark cold. Jonah struck a match. Bodies, 3 of them. Men shot in the back, left to rot. Eliza gasped. Jonah grabbed her arm, pulled her back up the stairs. "We're leaving," he said. "Now." They ran for their horses. A voice stopped them. "Going somewhere." They spun. A man stood in the doorway of the saloon, tall, thin, wearing a deputy's badge. But his eyes were wrong. Dead. "Who are you?" Jonah demanded. "Name's Pike. I work for Marshal Dawson." He smiled. "He's been looking for you." Jonah's gun was in his hand before Pike finished speaking. Pike didn't flinch. "I wouldn't," Pike said. "I've got 4 men with rifles trained on you right now. You shoot me, you die." Eliza's voice was steady. "What do you want?" "The ledger. Give it to me, you can go." "We don't have it." "Don't lie to me, lady. Dawson told me what you took. Hand it over." Jonah and Eliza exchanged looks. Then Jonah slowly reached inside his shirt. "Stop." Pike's hand moved to his gun. "Slow." Jonah pulled out the ledger, held it up. Pike's eyes lit up. "Toss it here." "Let us go first." Pike laughed. "You think I'm stupid? Give me the ledger, then we talk." "No deal," Jonah said. "We walk, then you get the papers. You're not in a position to negotiate. Neither are you. You kill us, you'll never find it. I'm not stupid enough to carry the only copy." Pike's smile faded. "You're bluffing. Try me." The silence stretched. Then Pike said, "Fine. You walk. But if you're lying, we're not." Jonah and Eliza backed toward their horses, moving slowly. Pike watched them, his hand still on his gun. They mounted. Jonah held up the ledger. "You want this, come and get it." He threw it not to Pike but into the saloon behind him. Pike lunged for it. Jonah and Eliza kicked their horses into a gallop. Shots rang out. A bullet grazed Jonah's arm. He gritted his teeth and rode harder. Behind them, Pike was screaming orders. More shots, more screaming. They rode until the town disappeared behind them. Only then did Eliza speak. "That was the copy," she said. "Please tell me that was the copy." Jonah reached inside his other pocket and pulled out the original ledger. "That was the copy." Eliza let out a sound between a laugh and a sob. "You're insane." "Probably." They rode until full dark, then found a cave to shelter in. No fire too risky. They sat close together, sharing what little warmth they had. "Your arm," Eliza said, seeing the blood. "It's nothing." "Let me see." She tore a strip from her shirt, cleaned the wound, bound it tight. Her hands were gentle, sure. Jonah watched her face in the moonlight. "Why did you stay with him?" he asked. "The sheriff. If you could have left, gone back east, why didn't you?" Eliza tied off the bandage. "Because I loved him. Because he made me feel like I belonged somewhere. And because—" She paused. "Because he was dying." Jonah went still. "What?" "He was sick. Consumption. The doctor said he had maybe a year. That's why he pushed so hard to expose Dawson. He knew he was running out of time. Did Dawson know? I don't think so. But James knew. And he planned for it. He planned for everything. Her voice broke. Including you. Jonah felt something shift in his chest. He didn't just send me to protect you. No. He sent you to replace him, to be the man I'd need when he was gone. That's impossible cruel, I know. But James was practical. He saw the world as it was not as he wished it to be. And he knew I couldn't survive alone. You're stronger than you think. Am I? Because right now I feel like I'm barely holding on. Jonah pulled her closer. She didn't resist. Her head rested against his shoulder, her body fitting against his like it was meant to be there. You're not alone, he said quietly. Not anymore. She tilted her head back, looking at him. Her eyes were dark, searching. Jonah! A sound outside cut her off. Horses, voices, coming closer. They scrambled to the back of the cave, guns ready. The voices grew louder. Saw tracks heading this way. Check every cave. Dawson wants them alive if possible. Jonah and Eliza pressed themselves against the rock, barely breathing. A shadow darkened the cave entrance. A man stepped inside holding a torch. Jonah fired. The man dropped. The torch went out. Shouting erupted outside. More shots. Jonah grabbed Eliza's hand and pulled her deeper into the cave. There's got to be another way out, he said. How do you know? I don't. They ran blind through the darkness, hands on the walls, stumbling over rocks. Behind them, more men entered the cave, their torches casting wild shadows. The cave narrowed. Jonah's shoulders scraped rock. Then suddenly it opened up again, and there was light, faint, but real. An opening. They squeezed through. On the other side was a ravine, steep and treacherous. No time to think. They scrambled down, sliding on loose rock, grabbing at anything to slow their fall. Jonah hit the bottom hard. Pain shot through his ankle. Eliza landed beside him, rolled, came up with her gun ready. Above them, the men were at the cave opening, shouting, firing down. Bullets sparked off rocks. Run! Jonah yelled. They ran. The ravine twisted, opened into a dry wash. They followed it, their lungs burning, their legs screaming. A rider appeared ahead of them, then another, and another. They were surrounded. Jonah and Eliza stood back to back, guns raised. 6 men, all armed, all watching them with hungry eyes. One of them rode forward. It was Pike. End of the line, he said. Jonah's mind raced. No way out, no cover, no options. Then Eliza spoke. You want the ledger, I'll give it to you. But first you answer one question. Pike raised an eyebrow. What question? Who killed my husband? Was it Dawson, or was it you? Pike's smile was slow and cruel. Does it matter? It matters to me. Fine, it was me. I shot him in the back while he was trying to arrest Dawson's men. Easiest $500 I ever made. Eliza's face went blank. Then she raised her gun and fired. Pike's smile vanished. He looked down at the hole in his chest, surprised. Then he fell. Chaos erupted. Men shouting, horses, screaming, guns firing everywhere. Jonah grabbed Eliza and dove behind a boulder. Bullets whined overhead. We're dead, Eliza said. Her voice was calm, almost peaceful. Not yet, Jonah said. He fired, reloaded, fired again. Eliza did the same. One man fell. Then another. But there were too many. Then from the top of the ravine, more shots. Different guns. The men surrounding them turned confused. A voice boomed out. Federal Marshal, drop your weapons. The shooting stopped. Jonah risked a look. On the ridge above them stood 5 men in badges, rifles trained down. The surviving gunmen looked at each other. Then they ran. The marshals let them go. One of them descended into the ravine, a gray-haired man with a weathered face and sharp eyes. Jonah Cross, he said. Jonah lowered his gun. Yes, sir. Thomas Whitaker sent word you were coming. Said you had information about Marshal Dawson. Jonah looked at Eliza. She was staring at Pike's body, her gun still raised. We do, Jonah said. We have proof. Names, dates, everything. The marshal nodded. Then you'd better come with us. You've stirred up a hell of a hornet's nest, son. Dawson's got half the territory looking for you. He won't anymore, Eliza said quietly. She finally lowered her gun. Because we're going to bury him. The marshal's name was Coleman. He didn't ask questions on the ride to Santa Fe, just kept his men in a tight formation around Jonah and Eliza, his eyes constantly scanning the horizon. They rode hard for 2 days, stopping only when the horses demanded it. On the second night, camped in a grove of cottonwoods, Coleman finally spoke. Show me what you've got. Jonah handed him the ledger. Coleman read by firelight, his expression growing darker with each page. How long has Dawson been doing this? He asked. Years, Eliza said. My husband tracked transactions going back almost a decade. Coleman closed the ledger. This is enough to hang him. But you understand what this means. When we move against Dawson, we're moving against everyone he's connected to. That's judges, bankers, half the law in 3 territories. Good, Eliza said. Hang them all. Coleman studied her. You want blood. I want justice. Sometimes they're the same thing. Sometimes they're not. Then I'll settle for watching him swing. Coleman's mouth twitched something close to a smile. You've got fire, Mrs. Grant. Your husband would be proud. My husband's dead because he trusted the law. I won't make that mistake. You're trusting me. No, I'm using you. There's a difference. This time, Coleman did smile. Fair enough. He looked at Jonah. What about you, Cross? What do you want out of this? Jonah glanced at Eliza. I want her to be safe. Everything else is just noise. Coleman stood stretched. We'll reach Santa Fe by tomorrow night. Once we do, you both stay under federal protection until the trial. Dawson's got a long reach, and he's not going to go quietly. Will there be a trial? Eliza asked. Or will he disappear before you can arrest him? He can try, but I've already sent word ahead. Every marshal, every sheriff, every deputy between here and the Mexican border has his description. He's not getting out. You sound confident. I am. Men like Dawson always think they're smarter than everyone else. That's what gets them caught. That night, Jonah couldn't sleep. He sat watch his rifle across his knees, listening to the fire crack and pop. Eliza sat down beside him, wrapped in a blanket. Can't sleep either, he asked. Every time I close my eyes, I see Pike's face. The way he smiled when he told me he killed James. Like it was nothing. Like my husband's life was worth $500. You did the right thing. Did I, or did I just become the same as them? Jonah looked at her. You're nothing like them. How do you know? You barely know me. I know enough. I know you fight for what's yours. I know you don't quit when things get hard. I know... He stopped. What? I know I'd follow you into hell if you asked me to. Eliza's breath caught. Jonah, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I just needed you to know. She was quiet for a long moment. Then she leaned against his shoulder. I'm glad you're here, she whispered. I couldn't do this alone. You could, but you don't have to. They sat like that until dawn, not speaking, just being. When the others woke, they broke camp and rode on. Santa Fe appeared on the horizon at sunset, adobe buildings glowing red and gold, church bells ringing across the valley. Coleman led them through the streets to a federal building where more marshals waited. Inside, a man in a dark suit greeted them. He was younger than Coleman, with cold eyes and a politician's smile. Mrs. Grant, Mr. Cross, I'm District Attorney Harrington. Marshal Coleman tells me you have information about corruption in Red Hollow. Jonah handed him the ledger. Harrington flipped through it, his expression unreadable. This is extensive, he said slowly. It's everything, Eliza said. Every crime, every name, every dollar. My husband died gathering that information. Yes, I heard about Sheriff Grant's death. A tragedy. Harrington closed the ledger. However, I have some concerns about the chain of custody. How do I know this wasn't fabricated? Jonah felt ice form in his stomach. Why would we fabricate it? Revenge, grief, any number of reasons. Harrington set the ledger down. I'm not saying you did, I'm saying a defense attorney will. And without corroborating evidence. There's corroborating evidence, Eliza said. Bodies, bank records, witnesses. People in Red Hollow know what Dawson is. People in Red Hollow are terrified of Dawson. They won't testify. Then make them. I can't force people to put their lives at risk, Mrs. Grant. Coleman stepped forward. What are you saying, Harrington? I'm saying this case is complicated. It'll take time to build properly. Months, maybe longer. Months. Eliza's voice rose. Dawson killed my husband. He's trying to kill us. And you want us to wait months? I want to win, Mrs. Grant. And that requires patience. Patience is how men like Dawson stay in power. Harrington's expression hardened. I understand you're upset, but this is how the law works. We do this right, or we don't do it at all. Eliza grabbed the ledger off the desk. Then I'll do it myself. Mrs. Grant? She walked out. Jonah followed. Coleman caught up to them in the street. Wait, he said. Don't do anything stupid. Stupid. Eliza spun on him. What's stupid is trusting you people. What's stupid is thinking the law would actually do something. Harrington's an ass, but he's not wrong. If we rush this, Dawson walks. Is that what you want? I want him to pay. Then let us do our jobs. Your job is to protect people like Dawson. My husband figured that out too late. I won't make the same mistake. She started walking. Jonah grabbed her arm. Eliza, stop. Let go of me. Not until you listen. You charge off half-cocked, you'll get yourself killed. Is that what the sheriff would want? She jerked her arm free. Don't you dare tell me what James would want. You didn't know him. I know he loved you enough to plan for your future. I know he trusted me to keep you alive. And I know he'd want you to be smart about this. Tears streamed down her face. I can't just wait, Jonah. I can't sit here doing nothing while Dawson goes free. Then we don't wait. We find another way. Coleman was watching them. What are you thinking, Cross? I'm thinking Harrington's right about one thing. We need more evidence. Evidence that can't be disputed. Like what? Like a confession. Eliza stared at him. You want to get Dawson to confess. I want to get him talking. On record. With witnesses. Coleman shook his head. That's suicide. Dawson's not going to just sit down and admit to murder. He will if he thinks he's won. What are you talking about? Jonah looked at Eliza. We give him what he wants. We tell him we're willing to trade, the ledger for our lives. He'll kill us the moment we hand it over, she said. Not if we do it in public. Not if we make sure there are witnesses, federal witnesses. Coleman was starting to understand. You want to set a trap. I want to give Dawson enough rope to hang himself. It's risky. It's all we've got. Eliza looked between them. And if it doesn't work, if he sees through it, then we're no worse off than we are now. She thought about it. Then she nodded. Do it. They spent the next day planning. Coleman brought in 2 more marshals men he trusted absolutely. They would pose as customers in the saloon where the meeting would take place. Jonah and Eliza would wear hidden wires, new technology barely reliable, but it might pick up Dawson's voice. You get him talking about the sheriff's death, Coleman said. Get him to admit he ordered it. That's all we need. And if he doesn't bite, Jonah asked, then we have a harder fight ahead, but at least we tried. That night, Eliza found Jonah on the roof of the hotel where they were staying. He was sitting on the edge looking out at the city. You shouldn't be up here alone, she said. Neither should you. She sat beside him. Are we really doing this, walking back into the lion's den? Unless you have a better idea. I don't. But I'm scared, Jonah. More scared than I've ever been. Good. Scared keeps you sharp. She laughed a short, bitter sound. James used to say that. Fear is just your body telling you to pay attention. Smart man. He was. He was also reckless, stubborn, convinced he could fix everything himself. She paused. You remind me of him sometimes. Is that good or bad? I don't know yet. They sat in silence. Then Eliza said, If this goes wrong tomorrow, if we don't make it out, we will. But if we don't, I want you to know something. Jonah looked at her. She was staring at her hands. You're not your brother's death, she said quietly. You're not defined by the worst thing you've ever done. You're defined by what you do after, and what you've done. Helping me, fighting for me, risking your life for someone you barely know. That's who you are. Jonah's throat tightened. Eliza, let me finish. She finally met his eyes. When James sent you to me, I thought it was cruel. I thought he was trying to replace himself, like I could just move on and forget. But that's not what he was doing. He was giving me a chance to live, to fight, to choose my own path. And he knew you'd help me do that because you're the kind of man who keeps his promises. I don't know if I'm that man. You are. I've seen it. Jonah reached out and took her hand. Her fingers were cold, shaking slightly. We're going to survive this, he said. Both of us. And when we do, we're going to build something. I don't know what yet, but something worth fighting for. Eliza's eyes shimmered. Promise. Promise. She leaned her head against his shoulder. They stayed like that until the stars came out, both of them trying not to think about tomorrow. The meeting was set for noon at a saloon called the Dusty Rose. Jonah and Eliza arrived early, wearing the hidden wires Coleman's men had rigged. The saloon was half full, men drinking, playing cards, not paying attention. Coleman's marshals were scattered among them. At noon exactly, Dawson walked through the door. He looked the same, tall, confident, his marshal's badge gleaming on his chest. He saw Jonah and Eliza and smiled. Mrs. Grant, Mr. Cross, I'm glad you came to your senses. He sat down across from them. Eliza's hand was clenched in her lap. Jonah put his hand over it, squeezed once. We want this to end, Jonah said. So do I. Where's the ledger? Somewhere safe. First we talk terms. Dawson leaned back. You're not in a position to negotiate terms. We are if we've already sent copies to 3 federal marshals, 2 newspapers, and the territorial governor. Dawson's smile faltered. You're bluffing. Maybe. You willing to take that risk? The silence stretched. Then Dawson said, What do you want? Safe passage. Out of the territory. New identities. And you leave us alone. That's it. That's it. Dawson studied them. Why should I believe you? Because we're tired, Eliza said. Her voice was steady. We're tired of running, tired of being afraid. We just want to disappear. And the ledger, you can have it, every copy. We'll even testify that we made it all up, whatever you want. Just let us go. Dawson was quiet for a long moment. Then he laughed. You almost had me, he said. The scared widow routine, the desperate husband. It was a good performance. Jonah's blood went cold. What are you talking about? You think I don't know a trap when I see one. You think I don't have eyes everywhere. Dawson gestured around the saloon. 3 federal marshals, hidden wires, a recording device under the table. You must think I'm stupid. Eliza's face went white. How do I know? Dawson stood. Because Harrington told me, last night, right after you left his office. The world tilted. Jonah stood, his hand going to his gun. Dawson's men were faster. 6 of them, guns drawn, surrounding the table. Coleman's marshals started to move, but they were outnumbered. Don't, Dawson said quietly. Everyone stays calm. Everyone lives. Make a move, and this saloon becomes a slaughterhouse. Coleman stood slowly, his hands visible. You're finished, Dawson. This whole place heard you admit to corruption. Did they? Dawson pulled out a small device, the recorder. He crushed it under his boot. Oops, guess not. Eliza's voice shook. Harrington's working with you. Harrington works for whoever pays him the most. Right now, that's me. Dawson gestured to his men. Take them. Jonah moved fast, shoving Eliza behind him, drawing his gun. But Dawson's men were ready. A rifle butt caught him in the temple. He went down hard, vision blurring. The last thing he heard was Eliza screaming his name. He woke in darkness. His head throbbed. His hands were tied behind his back. He tried to move and realized he was in a cell, iron bars, stone walls, no windows. Jonah! Eliza's voice. She was in the cell across from him, also bound. I'm here, he said. Are you hurt? No. I'll live. Where are we? I don't know. Somewhere under the federal building, I think. I heard them talking. Dawson has us. Coleman and his men are... Her voice broke. I don't know. Jonah tested the ropes. They were tight, professional. He wasn't getting out of them. We're going to die here, Eliza whispered. No, we're not. How can you say that Dawson won? He has the ledger. He has us. He has everything. He doesn't have everything. What doesn't he have? Jonah smiled in the darkness. The original ledger. The one we gave him was another copy. Eliza went silent. Then she started laughing, high, half hysterical. You brilliant, insane man. Where's the original? With someone Dawson would never think to look. Someone who's already on the way to the territorial governor. Who? Whitaker, the lawyer. I gave it to him the day we left Santa Fe. Told him if we didn't contact him within a week, take it straight to the top. Eliza's laughter turned to sobs. We might still die down here. We might, but we'll die knowing we won. Footsteps echoed in the hallway. A door opened. Light flooded the cells. Dawson stood there, backlit, holding a lantern. Time to finish this, he said. Dawson's men dragged them out of the cells. Jonah's legs barely held him. Eliza stumbled, and one of the men yanked her upright by her hair. Jonah lunged, got a rifle butt to the ribs for his trouble. Easy, Dawson said. I need them conscious, for now. They were pulled upstairs through corridors into a room Jonah recognized Harrington's office. The district attorney sat behind his desk, looking uncomfortable. Is this necessary? Harrington asked. You want your cut, you do your part, Dawson said. He shoved Jonah into a chair. Another man forced Eliza down beside him. Now, let's talk about the real ledger. Jonah said nothing. Dawson backhanded him. Blood filled Jonah's mouth. Don't be stupid, Cross. You think I didn't search you? You think I don't know you gave me a fake? Where's the original? Burned it, Jonah said. Right after we made the copies. Liar. Believe what you want. Dawson turned to Eliza. What about you, Mrs. Grant? You going to be difficult too? Go to hell. Dawson smiled. You first. He nodded to one of his men. The man pulled out a knife. Wait. Harrington stood. This wasn't the deal. You said no one else would die. Sit down, counselor. You're not here to have opinions. I won't be party to murder. Dawson drew his gun and shot Harrington through the chest. The attorney collapsed, eyes wide, blood spreading across his expensive shirt. Eliza screamed. Jonah's ears rang. Anyone else have objections? Dawson asked. His men shook their heads. Good. Now, let's try this again. Where's the ledger? Before Jonah could answer, the door burst open. Coleman stood there, blood on his face, a rifle in his hands. Behind him were his marshals, beaten, angry, but alive. Drop your weapons, Coleman shouted. Dawson's men spun, reaching for their guns. Coleman fired. One of Dawson's men fell. The room exploded into chaos. Jonah threw himself sideways, taking Eliza with him. They hit the floor as bullets tore through the air above them. Jonah rolled, got his tied hands in front of him, grabbed a letter opener from Harrington's desk. He sawed at the ropes while men died around him. The rope snapped. Jonah grabbed Eliza, pulled her toward the door. A man blocked their path. Jonah drove the letter opener into his throat, didn't stop to watch him fall. They made it to the hallway. Coleman was there, firing back into the office. Go, he yelled. Get out of here. What about you? I'll hold them, just go. Jonah hesitated. Then he grabbed Eliza's hand and ran. They burst into the street. It was chaos. People running, shouting, horses screaming. Someone had sounded an alarm. More marshals were coming. This way. Jonah pulled Eliza down an alley. Behind them, gunfire still echoed. They ran until their lungs burned, until they couldn't hear the shooting anymore. Finally, they collapsed in a stable, gasping for air. Coleman, Eliza started. I know. We left him. He told us to run. We should go back. And get shot. He's buying us time. We don't waste it. Eliza's face crumpled. How many more people have to die for this? As many as it takes. Jonah's voice was hard. Your husband died for it. Pike died for it. Harrington died for it. We don't let it be for nothing. She nodded, wiping her eyes. What do we do now? We wait. Whitaker has the ledger. He should have reached the governor by now. Should have. What if he didn't? What if Dawson got to him too? Then we're dead anyway. Might as well have faith. They hid in the stable for 3 hours. As the sun set, they heard horses approaching. Jonah grabbed a pitchfork ready to fight. The stable door opened. Marshal Coleman limped in his arm in a makeshift sling, his face gray with pain. Don't stab me, he said. I'm one of the good guys. Jonah dropped the pitchfork. You're alive. Barely. Took a bullet in the shoulder. But Dawson's men are dead or arrested. Dawson himself got away. Where? Don't know, but he's running scared. Federal troops are coming from Fort Union. Governor declared him a fugitive. It's over. It's not over until he's caught, Eliza said. True, but we won. The ledger reached the governor. Whitaker delivered it 3 hours ago. Every name in that book is being rounded up as we speak. Jonah felt something release in his chest. It's really over. The fighting is. The paperwork's just beginning. Coleman sat down heavily. You two need to testify. Grand jury, probably a trial. Could take months. We'll do it, Eliza said. Whatever it takes. Coleman looked at her with something like respect. Your husband would be proud. Her eyes filled. I hope so. They stayed in Santa Fe for 2 weeks while the legal machinery ground forward. Dawson was captured trying to cross into Mexico. The governor himself came to thank Jonah and Eliza for their service. Newspapers from as far as San Francisco ran stories about the corrupt marshal and the widow who brought him down. Through it all, Jonah and Eliza barely spoke about what came next. They testified. They answered questions. They watched as man after man was arrested, charged, imprisoned. But they didn't talk about them. Finally, on a quiet evening, Eliza found Jonah sitting outside the hotel. They're offering me money, she said. The territorial government, compensation for the ranch for James's death. It's not much, but it's enough to start over somewhere. That's good. Is it? Start over where, doing what? Jonah looked at her. What do you want to do? I don't know. For the first time in my life, I don't know. James always had a plan. And when he died, I had the ledger to focus on. Revenge to chase. But now, she sat beside him. Now I'm just lost. You're not lost. You're free. Is there a difference? Yeah. Lost means you don't know where you're going. Free means you get to choose. She was quiet. Then she said, What about you? What will you do? I don't know either. I thought maybe I'd head further west. California maybe. Start fresh. Alone. Jonah's heart hammered. Doesn't have to be. Eliza looked at him, really looked at him like she was seeing him for the first time. We're married, she said softly. Legally, lawfully. But we never chose it. It was forced on us. I know. So I'm giving you a choice now. Walk away. I won't hold it against you. You've done more than anyone could ask. More than James had any right to expect. You're free, Jonah. Free of your debt. Free of me. What if I don't want to be free of you? Her breath caught. What? What if I want to stay? Not because I owe your husband. Not because I made a promise, but because I want to. Jonah, I'm not asking you to love me, he said quickly. I know you loved him. I know I can never replace what you had. But maybe we could build something new. Something that's ours. Not his plan. Not anyone's plan, but ours. Eliza's eyes shimmered. I did love him. I still do. But he's gone. And I'm still here. And so are you. So what do we do? She held out her hand. We choose. Right now. No obligations, no debts, no ghosts, just you and me. Jonah took her hand. You sure? No, but I'm choosing anyway. He pulled her close. She came willingly, her hands sliding up his chest around his neck. They stood like that for a long moment, breathing together, hearts pounding. I'm going to kiss you, Jonah said. If you don't want that, say so now. I want that. He kissed her. It wasn't gentle. It wasn't tentative. It was desperate and raw, and full of everything they'd been holding back for weeks. Eliza kissed him back like she was drowning, and he was air. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Eliza was crying. What's wrong? Jonah asked. Nothing. Everything. I don't know. She laughed through the tears. I didn't think I'd ever feel this again. This alive. This scared. This hopeful. Is it too much? Too soon? It's terrifying. But I don't want to stop. Then we don't. They kissed again, softer this time, longer. When they pulled back, Eliza rested her forehead against his. Where do we go? She whispered. After all this? Anywhere you want. I was thinking Colorado. I heard there's good land there. Room to build something. A ranch. Maybe, or a farm. Or just a house with a garden. Something simple. Something ours. Sounds perfect. You mean that? I do. She smiled, a real smile, the first he'd seen in weeks. Then let's go. Soon as the trials are over. Let's just go and never look back. Deal. They left Santa Fe 6 weeks later. Dawson had been convicted and sentenced to hang. Dozens of others were imprisoned. The corruption that had spread across 3 territories was finally painfully being cut out. On the morning they left, Coleman came to see them off. You two take care of each other, he said. We will, Eliza promised. And if you ever need anything, we'll write. But I think we're done with trouble for a while. Coleman smiled. Something tells me trouble's done with you too. They rode north into the mountains toward Colorado. They didn't rush. They camped under stars, cooked over open fires, talked about everything and nothing. One night, wrapped in blankets by the fire, Eliza said, Tell me something true. Like what? Like what you want. For us. For the future. Jonah thought about it. I want a life that's quiet, where we wake up together and go to sleep together, and the worst thing that happens is a bad harvest or a broken fence. I want to know your favorite color and what makes you laugh. I want to build something with you that no one can take away. Eliza's eyes were soft. My favorite color is blue, the color of the sky right before sunset. And I laugh when I'm nervous, which is why I've been laughing so much lately. You nervous now? Terrified. Of what? Of how happy I am. Of how much I want this to work. Of losing you like I lost him. Jonah pulled her closer. You're not going to lose me. You can't promise that. I can promise I'll fight like hell to stay. That good enough. She kissed him, slow, sweet, full of promise. It's perfect. They reached Colorado in early spring, found land near a creek with mountains rising behind it and sky stretching forever above. Used Eliza's compensation money to buy it outright. No debts, no strings. They built a house with their own hands. It was small, simple, but it was theirs. Planted a garden. Bought cattle and chickens. Made friends with neighbors who knew nothing about marshals or corruption or dead sheriffs. Some nights Eliza still cried. Jonah would hold her and let her grieve. Some nights Jonah woke from nightmares about his brother. Eliza would talk him through them, her voice steady in the darkness. But most nights they slept peacefully. Together, One year after they left Santa Fe on a warm summer evening, they stood on their porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold. "You happy?" Jonah asked. Eliza leaned against him. "More than I ever thought I'd be again. You think your husband would approve of us?" "I think he'd be glad I chose life over grief, that I chose you." She turned to look at him. "I love you, Jonah Cross. Not because I owed you, not because you were convenient, but because you're kind and brave and you make me want to be braver." Jonah's throat tightened. "I love you too. Have for a while now." "How long?" "Since you shot Pike without blinking. Maybe before that." She laughed. "That's a terrible moment to fall in love." "Maybe, but it was real, and that's all that matters." They kissed as the sun set, as the plains stretched silent around them, as the life they'd built together settled into something solid and true. What started as obligation became choice. What started as survival became love. What started as two strangers forced together became a partnership neither of them would trade for anything. They had each other. They had their land. They had a future they'd fought and bled for. And that was enough. More than enough. It was everything they never knew they needed, everything they'd always deserved, and everything they'd keep building together for the rest of their lives.